All right, guys, welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. And boy, did we have a good one last night. The Raiders were able to, get the job done. Finally, felt good.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. They did it in an interesting fashion. We're going to talk about that. But first off, I'm going to start on the Packers side of the ball because there is not much to go over. Jordan Love was 16 for 30, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 rushes for 37 yards, finished with 8 fantasy points. Was not one of his better days. Not one of the. Max Crosby was wrecking that whole game. I mean, and Jordan Love really didn't look good. One of his interceptions was literally right to Robert Spillane. Oh, he threw 3. I apologize. Not 2. 3, because he threw the game-ending interception to Amik. And yeah, I mean, one of them happened to bounce off, and you know how those go. You can't really control that. But the other one, I mean, he didn't even see Spillane there, threw it right to him. I don't know. The Raiders defense has been performing well the past few weeks, so maybe we need to give them a little more credit than we have been. But as of right now, I'm a little bit concerned as far as Jordan Love. I don't know after this performance if he's someone I can necessarily trust week in, week out. Fortunately, they're going on the bye next week. Maybe they can figure some stuff out. But yeah, as far as him, I'm not sure. A.J. Dillon finally had a game. It would take playing the Raiders for that to happen. He rushed 20 times for 76 yards and a touchdown. No passes on one target. 13.6. And I mean, finally, it was like he convinced us that if Aaron Jones isn't playing, you're still not starting him. And then now he goes off to a degree. But I mean, still moving forward, like I said, they're going into the bye. So I'd like to assume that coming out of that bye, Aaron Jones should be good to go. He did practice in a limited fashion this whole past week. So we'll just have to wait and see as far as that goes. But A.J. Dillon only got 64% of the snaps. They were having Patrick Taylor in there for 36. And, it just not something I'm really interested in. Once Aaron Jones gets back, it's going to be his backfield. As far as the pass catchers, as you would probably figure, wasn't a good day. I mean, when your quarterback only completes 16 passes and does not throw a touchdown, it usually doesn't end well. Christian Watson was the lead receiver in this one. He got 7 targets, caught 3 of them for 91 yards, and what would have been a touchdown if Marcus Peters hadn't made the game-saving horse collar tackle. Shouts out to the Juice Man. Watson, he's, I think, shown now that he is going to be the wide receiver 1 that we all thought he would be and that we all drafted him for. That's safe to say. Whether or not Jordan Love can improve enough to, put him in that high-level wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver. I don't think he'll end up being a wide receiver 1 just because I don't know if Jordan Love has the capability to get that done. I mean, he's a deep ball threat, and if he can connect on the deep ball, he's going to have a big day. But we also see that if Jordan Love is just not performing, this is kind of what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
On those 3 catches, he got 91 yards. So he gave you 11.6 PPR points because he also had 1 rush for -5 yards. And as far as everyone else, I mean, Luke Musgrave also got 7 targets, caught 6 of them for 34 yards, giving you 9.4 points. So as a tight end option, we've talked about him before. He's healthy. He's going to be a top target in that offense. We've seen it. And he's someone that you can trust and probably roll with as long as he is healthy. But the rest of the receivers, man, this was concerning to say the very least. Jaden Reed only got 2 targets, caught 1 for 7 yards, gave you 1.7. He was only on the field 50% of the time. Dobbs was out there 86% of the time, only got 4 targets and caught 1 for 4 yards. This is the most concerning one because we've seen Dobbs just eating up targets this whole, we had an idea that once Christian Watson came back, maybe he would get, downgraded a little bit, but not to this degree. And I mean, when you only catch 1 of the 4 targets, and like I said, your quarterback only completes 16 passes, it's not going to allow for a very big day regardless. But I think now that we've seen the lows and against the Raiders defense that isn't world beating, it's not like this is going to be their toughest defensive opponent. So that's what really worries me. Moving forward, we'll see what happens in week 7, but I don't know that I'm trusting Dobbs in a starting position right now.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the other, same with Jaden Reed and Wicks and the rest of them, I'm not even taking a look at. But yeah, that's all I got for the Packers side of the ball. If you want to go ahead and celebrate your Raiders.
I mean, before I get to that, to touch on the Packers just a little bit, this is the second week, and it's very surprising to say it, that the Raiders' pass defense has looked formidable. We saw even last week against Herbert, we talked about, you said Jordan Love completed 17 passes?
16.
Herbert only completed 13. And we're talking Justin Herbert. He was 13 of 24, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. I've never seen the Raiders defense go back-to-back weeks.
You can say that it may have he did fracture his finger, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Could have some effect. I mean, if you break your finger in the middle of a game, obviously it's going to have, even if it's not on your throwing hand, it's still going to have some effect. You're catching, you're receiving the snap on every play. Regardless, but no, and this has been 2 weeks without Nate Hobbs either. So that it's very impressive on the side of the Raiders defense.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, when Aaron Jones comes back, A.J. Dillon's going to fade away. He had a solid fantasy game because he got in the end zone. All credit to him. It was a tough run, got in the end zone. When you get 20 carries and you finish 76 yards, I mean, it's not even the most efficient rushing day. They just could not get it going through the air. So they looked to A.J. Dillon, and he did produce. They had multiple times they were giving him 2-3 carries in a row. He would get the first down. So, I mean, by far A.J. Dillon's most productive week. But again, if Aaron Jones returns, it's probably going to stay his most productive week. Luke Musgrave, I like. Tight ends that get volume, we love. If you're getting 5+ targets as a tight end, I mean, it's just hard to turn your eye to that. So, I mean, and then Christian Watson, he's for sure the wide receiver 1 there. The only thing that scares me is his ability to make the big play, which he does. But if he doesn't make that big play, I mean, he made, again, complete all props to him. He made that 77-yard catch. If he does not get that 77-yard catch, we're looking at an abysmal week from Christian Watson. But again, he's one of the guys that has the ability to do that. I trust he will do that on a consistent basis. Yeah, I like him in starting lineups. Romeo Doubs, that hurt to see because he had been getting 10+ targets when Christian Watson was out, and even when Watson returned this past week, and we just saw a complete fall off. I mean, the Packers' pass game as a whole was just horrendous to see. So, I mean, and like you said, there's going to be way tougher matchups than the Raiders, so that's why it's really concerning to see. But yeah, I mean, depending who your receivers are week 7, I'm trying to think of who has the bye week 7. I know it's like the Titans, so like D-Hop.
Titans, Bengals.
Bengals, Jamar, T. Higgins, even like a Tyler Boyd. So, I mean...
Jets.
Yeah, the Jets, Garrett. Well, so depending, who you have on your roster, if you have the buys and you have to start Romeo Doubs, I mean, I don't hate it. But again, he's probably like a flex option until he can prove that he can be, like a wide receiver 3. But that's all I had for the Packers. You want me to move to the Raiders?
Yeah, not too much to touch on
and
that side.
The Raiders are the same story we have talked about. They're one of those teams where, Jimmy G had a very mediocre day, especially fantasy-wise. He had a pretty bad day fantasy-wise. 22 of 31, 208, touchdown, interception, bad interception. 11.7 fantasy points. When we talk about
it was only 1 interception.
Oh yeah. And when we talk about the big 3 for the fantasy wise in Las Vegas, Josh Jacobs, 20 carries, 69 yards, a touchdown, 5 catches on 5 targets, 20 yards, 19.9, very solid week. Jacoby Myers. When Jacoby Myers has Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback, he has scored at least 15 points. He again shined. 7 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, 20.5. The big kind of disappointment this week was obviously Davante Adams. He only had 4 targets, caught all 4 of them for 45 yards, 8.5. So it's not like it was just a completely terrible week, but you're drafting the guy 2nd round early. So, I mean, it's obviously a down week.
It's... I really hope that the Raiders go back and watch this film and ask themselves, why the hell are we not giving the ball to Davante Adams more? Why are we more willing to throw the ball to Jacoby Myers in triple coverage than Davante Adams in single coverage? I don't give a damn who's shadowing him. He's maybe the best wide receiver in the league. And we're not just going to, we get in a goal to go situation. Nah, we're not going to throw a fade to Davante. That's too simple. It doesn't make sense. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't be getting at least 10 targets every week. But with McDaniels and Jimmy trash ass G at the helm, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought Davante Adams was quarterback proof. Maybe Jimmy will prove that otherwise. Obviously, you're starting him every week, but this was just gross. It was like malpractice. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Luckily, they won the game, because if they hadn't, good Lord.
Yeah, no, it would have been bad. And I know me and Schiff were talking about it during the game. And, like, as a Raider fan, I threw out there, I'm like, if we can win a game getting Davante, like a game like this, 4 or 5 catches and that's it for, 50 or less than 50 yards, like, that's huge. But fantasy-wise, 100% agree. I mean, at the very low end, 8 targets. And I mean, like, absolute low end, he should be getting 8 targets. And again, goal line, at least once. Davante's one of the most sure-handed guys in the league. Like, I don't get how you don't throw one up to him, but
no, and it's so irresponsible, because they were a horse collar tackle and a bad throw away from losing that game. And if you look back and you lost a game with only throwing Davante Adams the ball 4 times, who else is there to blame?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Ridiculous stuff, man.
And I mean, outside of that, Michael Mayer, Austin Hooper, we actually saw Michael Mayer get a couple looks. Again, not viable fantasy-wise, but at least a couple catches.
He's starting to separate himself a little bit.
Yeah. He's younger.
He finally outsnapped Hooper.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good thing to see if you're in a super deep format, maybe later in the season. But right now, I mean, there's just much better options. Something that we just need to put to bed is Hunter Renfrow. We saw, they drafted Trey Tucker kind of early. Well, Trey Tucker left this game very early with a knee injury. And Renfrow still only saw 30% of snaps, 2 targets. I'm sure he might be looking at the number right now, but his snap percentage is going down every single week. They were giving snaps to DeAndre Carter over Hunter Renfrow, so whoever was waiting for Hunter Renfrow to awaken and show us the wide receiver he is, and he probably,
he's gonna have to be on another team.
Yeah, it's hard to convince me.
To be on another team.
Yeah, Renfro's a crazy talented receiver, but fantasy-wise, I don't want to harp on him too long, because on the Raiders, he is not a viable fantasy option, and that's just what it is. That's where we're at, unless he gets traded somewhere else. Another player to, honestly, and it's tough to say to drop him, but it's the time. Daniel Carlson, he had a field goal tipped and missed it, and he had a field goal tipped and missed that one, and also missed the field goal late in the game. Even if he would have made from 52, even if he would have made both of those, maybe he would be a bit higher on this list. But as of now, Daniel Carlson's the number 31 kicker fantasy-wise. It's done.
Yeah.
Let him go. There are other fantasy options. I don't care if people are saying, oh, Carlson's a top 5, top 3, whatever kicker in the league. It does not matter. Fantasy-wise, he is not. The Raiders do not score enough points for him to be viable. It's just what it is. Daniel Carlson, if he's on your roster, let him go. There's better options out there.
Yeah, to say the very least.
Yeah.
It's just not... Glad the Raiders won. I'm glad for you guys. But something's got to give. But for what it's worth, we're going to move on from that. There's not too much more to talk about. What is more important that we do need to cover is the injuries this week.
They were bad.
Buckle up, guys. This is ugly. Gonna start off with probably the most important guy, the number 1 pick in a lot of leagues. Justin Jefferson was placed on IR with a hamstring injury, which we know when you're placed on IR, you're going to miss at least 4 weeks. Well, I guess the severity of this injury might be more serious than they initially thought. And I've seen tweets from Schefter saying that, especially if the Vikings aren't winning games in these next 4 weeks,
Why put him
they
out
might
there?
shut him down for the whole season.
Yep.
So you are looking at right now not having Justin Jefferson for the rest of the season, and we are only in week 6. So this is very concerning.
This is doomsday.
Yeah, for a lot of people, this is horrible. But something on a little more positive note, Diontae Johnson says that he will return in week 7 after their bye this week. So if you have Diontae, good job waiting it out. You can fire him up next week. James Conner, another one. He was placed on IR today. He will be missing at least the next 4 weeks. Daniel Jones, he is optimistic to play this week with the neck injury. We will see. Not somebody that I'm too excited to start either way, given they're going up against the Bills and their offensive line can't block a 6th grader. Devon Achane, expected to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. He's getting a second opinion on whether or not he will go on IR. Another one that hurts really bad, was looking like the waiver pickup of the year. I mean, they said it's not season ending, so you're going to be able to look forward to getting him back. Hopefully he doesn't go on IR. But again, this is another painful one, going to miss multiple weeks. Amon Ra St Brown, one more on the positive note. Dan Campbell is confident that he will play this week, and he's not dealing with a sports hernia. They're thinking it's more along the lines of an abdominal strain. Deshaun Watson has a rotator cuff contusion. His status for this week is up in the air. That really affects the likes of Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, even Jerome Ford, so on and so forth. Dalton Kincaid placed in concussion protocol, so I think that ups the value of Dawson Knox a little bit this week if Dalton Kincaid does miss, which it seems he will. Another very big one, Travis Kelce with the ankle injury. Now, on Mondays, we've talked about before, they do not practice when they play on Thursday, so it's always an estimation, but he was estimated as did not practice. Definitely something you're going to have to heavily monitor. If you have Travis Kelce, I would seriously pick up a tight end. Watch up until the final minute before that game. If Kelce plays, drop that tight end. You're good. If he doesn't, you have to make the pivot. But this is very serious.
He did play the rest of the game, though. And from how it looked, we talked about it, how it looked right away.
He did play the rest of the game. Something we all you have to remember, these guys have a lot of adrenaline. And they go in, they get the shots and whatnot. But after all that wears off, we have to see how. Feel it. Yeah, that's when you feel it. And we have to see how that progresses throughout the week. Definitely, we got to see if he practices today and tomorrow. But another guy playing in that game who would have been estimated to have a limited practice was Javonte Williams. If he is unable to go, we're rolling Jaleel McLaughlin again. Anthony Richardson, one a little bit on the worst side, suffered a grade 3 AC joint sprain. He will get another, he might have to get surgery. So we're waiting to see on that. He might go on IR. Obviously, if he gets surgery, it will be very likely he goes on IR. But until then, Gardner Minshew will be at the helm for the Colts. And as far, as the running backs and the pass catchers, I think Anthony Richardson takes a little more away from the running backs, and Minshew will probably provide a little bit more for the receivers because he's a more seasoned veteran in that position. Saquon Barkley, his status is still up in the air. When you're dealing with a high ankle sprain as a running back, this is something that you can expect. But again, we just don't know. Something that we're going to have to wait and find out. Austin Ekeler on his stream announced that he is 99% sure he will be playing this week. I think after that bye, it is someone that we can count on to come back. So finally, another thing positive. And then my final two, Tank Dell, also in concussion protocol. I don't think we'll be seeing him this week. And Justin Herbert has the fractured finger on his non-throwing hand, which shouldn't have too much effect, but it is an injury that has to be mentioned. Take a breath, guys. And now we have the waivers coming up. So this is important.
There's a lot of it's just tough to even unpack all of the names on that list. We have multiple first, second, third round picks on that name, guys that have emerged that are at the top of the food chain. It is crazy. Hopefully it's not hitting your team personally too hard with, the I mean, just with how many good players are on this list, I feel like the injury bug is hitting everyone a little bit. So, I mean, hopefully you came out of it okay, but I mean, it's something you deal with, and that's why you have to be able to draft competently all the way through your draft. You get solid backups, so when things like this happen, you have guys to pivot to. But again, if you need help with guys to pivot to, that's what we're here for in this waiver wire.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because like right now in a PPR format, you have Justin Jefferson as the wide receiver 6. You have Devon Achane as the wide receiver 3.
Running back
Both
3.
of those guys got running back 3. And then we got both of these guys going down, 2 top 12 guys, top 5, like it's hard. But this is only week 6, and we have seen a lot of season enders, a lot of guys on IR. It's going to be a bumpy road this season. Yeah. So, like we said, this is a fairly important waiver wire because some of those guys, they're backups and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start that off with my quarterback that I have this week is Matt Stafford. He's only rostered in 55% of leagues on Sleeper, and this week he will be taking on the Arizona Cardinals. We just saw them give Joe Burrow his revival. And hey, Matt Stafford's been chucking. Cooper Kupp's back. Puka looks good. Tutu looks good. We're firing up Stafford this week. I feel like there's not too much more to say. He's a great streaming option for the week provided, and you're probably not going to have Deshaun Watson this week. Not that you were starting Kenny Pickett anyways, and you're not going to have Jordan Love this week. And there's also some nasty matchups. So this is one that I do like.
Yeah, and the quarterback I have for this week, and again, it's a tough matchup for him, but I have Brock Purdy. He just is surrounded by so much talent, and he's just proven to be capable of performing because when you have Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey to get the ball to, it's fairly easy to do so. I mean, he's currently the QB7. He goes to Cleveland to play the Browns, but again, he just played Dallas, whose defense has looked very good and got lit up. The Niners just look otherworldly. And if Deshaun can't go, or even if he can, he's going to be limited. So I guess
if he doesn't go, instead of DTR this week, it'll be PJ Walker.
Yeah. So
fire up that Niners defense.
Yeah.
But for running backs, I have my first one is Tyjae Spears. He's only rostered in 38% of leagues. We are seeing him be kind of the passing down back. He's also starting, we finally are seeing a running back that can legitimately spell Derrick Henry, someone that they can put. He scored a touchdown last week. He's going up against the Ravens this week, a tougher matchup for running backs, but we did see Jaylen Warren have some success in a similar role that Tyjae Spears has. So honestly, as far as a flex play this week, if, you're out a running back or you got one of these guys that's hurt, I like him as a flex play, definitely as a stash. And if you have Derrick Henry and don't have Tyjae Spears, I don't know what you've been doing for these past 5 weeks, so hint, go get him.
Yeah. I have James Conner went down, he's on the IR. I have Emari Demercado. He came in, played 77% of snaps, 10 carries, 45 yards and a touchdown, saw 3 targets through the air. And even last week against the Niners, he played 35% of snaps and saw 4 targets through the air during that time. So, I mean, obviously with him on IR, Keontae Ingram is still not healthy with that neck. They just brought in Tony Jones, who, I mean, we saw what he did in New Orleans. I'm not too worried about that. He should definitely be the guy there. They play the Rams, but it's one of those things where I just see him getting the volume, and volume kills, especially, the waiver wire. Even with all the injuries, stop. The waiver wire, when you're looking at, a lot of the injuries, the running back, to get a running back that can come in and get the workload that Demercado is going to get is few and far between. So, I mean, he's rostered in 2% of leagues. He's going to be available.
Yeah. Yes, he is. And I'm gonna go through this real quick, guys. My other running backs that I have are Antonio Gibson. At this point, we saw that if they get down, they're not really going to use Brian Robinson. He's going to be involved in the receiving game. So if you're in a PPR format, it's very valuable. He's only 50% rostered. Justice Hill, we just saw Justice Hill kind of take over that backfield this week for whatever that's worth. A guy that, he's roster worthy just because he's going to be out there, and if he's healthy, he does look fairly decent on the field. He's had some issues fumbling, but he looks quick. He's catching passes, and that's another thing that we want from our running backs. My final one will be Samaje Perine, assuming he's still out there and Jaleel McLaughlin isn't. Although McLaughlin was the one who had kind of the gaudy numbers this past week, Samaje Perine still finished with a decent week, and he also had a larger percentage of the snaps. And while, he might not be as fast, whatever, he had 4 catches on 5 targets for 74 yards. So that's something, obviously, that's insanely valuable. But yeah, that's all I got for the running backs this week.
Yeah, and, kick it off the receiver. I still have him, Wan'Dale Robinson. He got picked up and he actually went up 30%. He was only 12%. He's still only 42% rostered. He left the game to get checked for a concussion, was able to return. He played 67% of snaps, had 5 receptions on 6 targets. Again, the only tough part is just they don't have any time. So he gets 5 catches for 18 yards. It's the only reason I have him here is because he is the number 1 receiver there. He's the only receiver that has the talent to even be worth rostering. So he's still on my list. I mean, there's a couple other really good options this week, but again, if you miss out on those and you have to get Wan'Dale over, someone deep on your bench, I don't hate it.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite option this week, one of the better options I think you were talking about, is KJ Osborn.
Yeah.
With this Justin Jefferson injury, he's going to be in every single 2 wide receiver set. It's going to be him and Jordan Addison. And we know how much the Vikings like to air the ball out. They're not that good on the run. He's only rostered in 18% of leagues. I mean, this is a guy, like, seriously, if Justin Jefferson were to miss the rest of the year, this guy's going to be extremely valuable. I would recommend throwing a decent amount of fab on him, just not knowing whether or not Jefferson will miss or not. Jordan Addison is a rookie. This is the veteran in that wide receiver room. Definitely like the most important waiver pickup this week, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And then my other wide receivers, they're not, I mean, Rashee Rice is showing flashes. He's only rostered in 49% of leagues, but it's, again, the thing we talk about the Chiefs receivers. I'm not going to repeat myself because you guys already know. And then Curtis Samuel, actually another guy that I'm very interested in. Only rostered in 29% of leagues. It's like we've been saying, he does the most with the opportunities he gets. And it's 2 weeks in a row that he's given us double-digit performances. Not only double-digit performances. I'm pretty sure he scored 18 points. Yeah, 18.2 and 18.5 in back-to-back weeks with 8 targets and 7 targets. So to me, he's going to be a guy that Sam Howell can lean on, apparently more than Jahan Dotson right now. Yeah. So he's definitely one of my priorities going for this week.
No, I'd 100% agree, and that's something we kind of talked about. It feels like Curtis Samuel has overtaken Jahan as that wide receiver too, and as of now, it doesn't seem that close.
And Curtis Samuel, to me, he really seems like the type of player that Eric Bieniemy can
use so many ways.
It's like the Eric Bieniemy type of player. But yeah, that's all I got for wide receivers. If you have any more,
no, I had a couple tight ends. The first one being, and someone we liked this week, Logan Thomas. When he is on the field, he is very viable. He has even missed a week, so he's only played 4 out of the 5 games. He's still tight end 11. He's coming off an 11 target week with 9 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he's rostered in 20% of leagues. He's probably available. They're going to play the Falcons. We're not the greatest against the tight end. I mean, he's definitely someone, depending on your matchup, depending who you got, I definitely like snagging him.
Yeah, I agree. I got a couple tight ends also, Dalton Schultz and Tyler Conklin. More importantly, Dalton Schultz, because we've seen him get 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, which obviously we know when we talk about touchdowns are not a week-to-week stat that you can always count on. However, being a red zone target is something that we can count on.
Mm-hmm.
And, seeing that he likes to throw the ball to him in the red zone. And last week, Dalton Schultz got 10 targets. We love to see that. We know what this tight end outlook is like. So the other guy, Tyler Conklin, he will be going up against the Eagles this week. And we know the Eagles haven't necessarily been the greatest against tight ends. They did a little bit better against Tyler Higbee this past week, but I think that's just due to the fact that Cooper Kupp was playing football again.
Yeah.
So you can't really take too much away from Higbee on that one. But yeah, I think that's really all I got. If you have anyone else.
No, I just one more. Zach Ertz. He's the tight end 15. He has not had eye-popping games, but for a tight end, he has given you at least 8 fantasy points 4 out of the 5 weeks. And what we've seen from the tight end position, if you don't have one of the mega stars, that's not terrible. And especially James Conner going down, we're going to see how good Demercado really is. But, if the run game does get stifled a little bit and they're having to pass, it's going to be Hollywood. It's going to be Zach Ertz. Maybe some Michael Wilson trickled in there. But you know who the main options are, and Zach Ertz is one of those.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, with that, guys, it's about all we got for you today. We'll come back tomorrow with the Thursday preview and a little bit more. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. We love all of the support. And go ahead, Derek.
Take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.